Hey guys, Cecil here once again. Hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about a video and an idea for a video that's been stewing in my mind the last handful of weeks. As you can tell by the title of this video, why now is a great time to invest in 7th gen hardware. Now, this is more of a video directed at collectors than anything. If you're more of a casual gamer, you don't play a ton of stuff, it may have some relevance to you, but this is more for the people who are, getting into collecting or are, pretty diligent collectors these days. And more information as to why now would be a great time to get into buying 7th gen hardware if you already haven't. But, stay tuned. Even if you're not a collector, I think you might find a lot of value and relevance in this video. So why now is a great time to buy a 7th gen console or get a different one if you already have maybe just a PS3, get a 360 or a Wii. We're now what I would consider a good full 2 years into the new console cycle for the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U. Now, you might think, okay, well, technically 3 years if you want to count the Wii U, but a good 2 years where all the consoles have been out, now where all these companies are getting into their second, third generation of software, and now they are definitely starting to put the old systems on the back burner. One big reason why now is a great time is just for the fact everyone is starting to dump their old hardware and buy the new systems and trade it in or sell it so they can buy the new consoles. Not everyone, collects games. Some people just want to have the latest and greatest. They don't want to have a ton of clutter, cramping up their home. I totally get that. But with everybody dumping all their stuff, if you're unaware, I actually work at GameStop. And we have had just tons of people in the last 12 months bring us their, 360s, PS3s, Wiis, and tons of games and, upgrading to the new systems. And that has flooded the market with a ton of cheap, inexpensive, older gen stuff while people are all going, ooh, ah, over all the new, sexy, next-gen looking games. All you have to do is just check Craigslist or eBay. You can get some pretty good bundles if you play your cards right. There's going to be people that are going to try to, still get, I spent, $500 on this, 360 bundle with Connect, 4 years ago, so it's still going to try to get for that. But if you play your cards right and you look around, you can probably still find new systems in store, but a lot of secondhand bundles are definitely out there too. And the nice thing about that is these systems are still new enough for the most part where they're still relatively reliable. You're not buying a 20, 30-year-old disc-based console like you maybe would be with a PS1 that was made in the mid-90s like you would today. So even if they're not that old, the systems are reliable. The market is definitely prime right now for you to take advantage of a lot of secondhand merchandise as well as new stuff. Another big reason why investing in 7th gen hardware is a really good idea is a lot of companies, now that they've moved on to the new systems, they're putting out a lot of compilation discs of their older stuff on last gen to still make money, because even though a lot of people have moved on to next gen, there are still a ton of people playing on 7th gen consoles, and to appeal to that market or younger kids market who may not have $400 or $500 to get a new system, but they still have their old 360, or they got a hand-me-down 360 from their older sibling or uncle or whatever, and now they want to play stuff. These compilations that come out are a great way for companies to make extra money on games that are maybe 3, 4, 5 years old now. And I'm just going to show you a few examples real quick. Just what you can expect. Now, this is the Spyro Collector's Edition right here. This actually came out, oh God, I must have picked this up about 2001, 2002. Just an example of Sony, after the PS2 came out, they re-released a lot of their, PS1 stuff. There's a ton of these white box Collector's Edition PS1 compilation discs. This actually has all 3 PS1 Spyro games. And now, right now, this is just a small example of some of the compilations Sony has done. But, God of War Saga, Echo and Shadow of the Colossus, and the Journey Collection. There's a ton of compilation collector boxes out there you can totally find and get these, $20 or less. You can get a ton of great games in these compilations that are really expensive and a lot of hours of great gaming time to, spend your free time with. Another big reason why getting into the 7th gen consoles now isn't a bad time if you haven't gotten yet is just for the fact there are a lot of physical copies that are still in print. They're easy, inexpensive to find. Like I said, with those compilation discs, you can find a lot of new games still at a lot of big box stores, as well as gaming stores, and a ton of used stuff. If you play your cards right. I remember a handful of years ago, this must have been about 10, 11 years ago, after the 360 and the PS3 had come out, I remember getting a ton of PlayStation 2 and original Xbox and some GameCube for $10 and less on clearance from like Best Buy, Target, Walmart, big box clearance stores that are just trying to get rid of the old stock because the new stock is coming in. And you can definitely potentially start seeing a lot of that now, since we're a couple years into the new console cycle. A lot of older games now too are also getting reprinted, Game of the Year compilations on top of these collections that I mentioned. Red Dead Redemption Game of the Year, for example, and even last gen GTA 5. These companies, even though, some of these games might be 3, 4, 5 years old now, they're still making money off them. Even if they're selling them at $20 a crack, you're selling a few thousand copies of your old game a week. You're still making money on that, even if it's, even digitally through other stores too. But, physical copies of games, even in a greatest hits price, they still make money on those. So it's worth it for these companies to make these compilations, these Game of the Year editions and whatnot. So, and they'll still make money on them. So that's something you can take advantage of now too. The other big reason why it's great to get into it is a lot of these games, these physical discs, are still in good condition. Over time, they are going to become harder to find. A good example I look at this is the fact of like the GameCube. I don't know if you've been paying much attention to GameCube prices in recent years, but they have shot up. The GameCube Fire Emblem about $100. Smash Brothers Melee about 50 to 60. Wind Waker is like 40. Some certain GameCube games are getting up there in price. Even original Wii stuff now, some games are starting to get up there in price. Even reprints of like Xenoblade, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, I know is a $50, $60 game. A lot of these games, especially GameCube and Nintendo systems in general, were not adult-owned. They were kid-owned, and they were not well taken care of. So you might run into some GameCube games, but you're lucky if you get a manual, let alone the disc being in good condition. And I will also say, the Wii U could very easily be this way a few years from now, 5 to 10 years from now, once, the store, especially for the online store, is shut off. And that's kind of another point I'm going to get to here. And another reason why it's not a bad time to invest in these games now is, say 5-10 years from now, you have an itch to play a game you want, you won't have to deal with resellers. The reseller market in this day and age, it doesn't make collecting fun sometimes. You're going to be paying 2, maybe 3 times retail for some games just because you can't find it anymore. And by getting the games you want to collect now, you won't have to worry about, having to spend, I got to go spend $100, $120 for this, PS2 game I had a ton of nostalgia for back when I was in college or growing up. I'll show you one good example of what you might run into a few years from now. If you remember the original first half of the 360's life, Microsoft put a pretty heavy emphasis on RPGs. There were a lot of good 360 exclusive RPGs that had come out, and this is just kind of a small example of some of the stuff that had come out from Microsoft and Square Enix. Tales of Vesperia, Last Remnant, Lost Odyssey, which is a really great RPG. I hope this gets an HD remaster at some point. Infinite Undiscovery, Blue Dragon. These games, while they're still not overly expensive to get over time, once they stop making 360 games and these go officially out of print, if they are not already, over time, prices on these could go up. So that's just another reason. If you can get the games you want now, jump on them while they're cheap and expensive and they're easy enough to find, so you won't have to deal, 5-10 years from now, if you have an itch to play one of your old games, you won't have to deal with the reseller market. And really, lastly, I would say, is digital distribution and its pitfalls. Console services, for the PS3 and the 360, this is really the first generation where we're coming out of into a new generation where there was a huge online marketplace for a lot of these games, and we don't really know if and when these services will officially be shut off. The original Wii, for example, a lot of online services for that have been shut off. The virtual console is still there, but at some point Nintendo may shut that off. The 360's Xbox Live Marketplace, the PlayStation Network Store on PS3. Great that you can go re-download your stuff in case you would, lose something or something would get corrupted in your system. You can go re-download it if your console would break. But who's to say 5-10 years from now, all those, PSN flash sale games you bought on PlayStation 3, your console bricks, you can't go back and re-download those because Sony turned off the PlayStation 3's online service. This isn't like Steam, which is PC is kind of a perpetual platform. Yes, it updates and upgrades, but Steam's kind of always there. You don't have to, if you buy a new gaming PC, you won't have to worry about a whole new distribution environment. You can still just download the Steam client and still get all your old games. Consoles don't really work that way. A few examples of this. OnLive, if you're familiar with that old streaming service, shut down, gone. Anybody who bought anything on OnLive, even if it wasn't very popular, which was a digital distribution service, a streaming service, you're shit out of luck. You can't go and replay those games. Ninja Turtles, the arcade game on the 360, a handful of years ago could be purchased. Can't find it anymore. Scott Pilgrim, that great beat 'em up based on the graphic novel series, can't get it anymore. Afterburner Climax, a pretty solid remake, modern day reimagining of the Afterburner franchise, can't get it anymore. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Disney purchased Marvel and any previously distributed games and stuff, Deadpool and whatnot. At least for the 360 and the PS3, I know they recently redid on PS4 and Xbox One. They did an HD remaster of it, but you can't find these games digitally. That's the thing. So while digital distribution definitely does have its perks in certain areas, with the uncertain future of the PS3 and the 360's online services, you just don't really know specifically when these services could shut off, and you might be shit out of luck. Hundreds and maybe thousands of dollars of money gone to hell because your console bricked. You have to buy a whole new hard drive, but now you can't go re-download all your stuff because Sony doesn't support the PS3 anymore, say 10 years from now. And that's the thing with these disc-based consoles. At some point, they are going to fail. Great if you potentially back your stuff up. I think that's probably for anyone who has a last-gen system. It's definitely something to consider going forward, to maybe consider backing your shit up because you just don't know when these services could potentially be gone, and at least that way you'll have something. If you buy a new system, you can reinstall all your digital content even after Sony shuts off or Xbox shuts their stuff off. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think now is a great time to get 7th gen stuff, start buying a lot of physical copies for some of the reasons I mentioned in this video? Maybe there's other reasons I didn't cover that you think, oh yeah, now is a great time to get into 7th gen consoles if you haven't already. If you only had a 360 or a Wii, now I'm going to go get a PS3. Or do you think it's just a gigantic waste of time? Stop worrying about old consoles, get the new stuff. It's everyone's got different opinions. I just wanted to share my thoughts on this, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Otherwise, you guys take it easy, and I'll see you next time.